that will allow that target to be reached. They have the authority already to move the goalposts. And they do this on clean air issues. They do this on toxicity. They've done it on nuclear power. They undoubtedly will end up doing it on EVs.
So do you think it's one of those things where there's a bunch of green people who don't do the math?
Oh, yeah.
And it just sounds great. It falls in line with the progressive ideology. Mm-hmm. We need to, carbon neutral. We can do this. Everyone go electric.
Yeah, and there is a fascinating discussion happening in the environmental community right now because they're being confronted with reality. So California and Germany have very similar green tech policies, but the Germans have spent 3 times as much as California, but are only getting about 1/5 as much power. Because I don't know if you've ever been to Germany, but the sun doesn't shine in Germany. And now with the Russians on the warpath and their clean-ish energy from natural gas going away, they're going back to lignite coal in force. It was already their number one source of power. Germany, the idea that Germany is green is ridiculous because they rely on really, really dirty coal, and now especially so. But there's now a conversation going on between the German environmentalists and the Californian environmentalists about why California, in relative terms, is doing so well at this, while Germany is not. And the answer is simple geography, but that's never been part of the conversation in the environmental community before. Now it is. They should have had this conversation 15, 20 years ago, but they're having it now. And as soon as they come to the conclusion, unwillingly, but they'll get there, that we have to choose where we put our copper and our lithium and our nickel, EVs are not going to make the cut at all.
Where will the copper and the nickel and where will all that go?
It'll be focused on the green techs that actually work in the geographic areas where it can be applied. So you put solar panels outside of Tucson, you put wind turbines outside of Tulsa. That works with the technology we have now. You do not put solar panels in Connecticut. That's stupid. That actually increases your carbon footprint.
Because there's no sun.
There's not enough sun to generate enough electricity to pay down the carbon debt that it took to build the stuff in the first place.
There's an ideology in this country that is we must act against climate change or we will die. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that haven't done the research and haven't really looked into this and really don't know what the numbers are. And they repeat that over and over again like it's a mantra.
It's become a new religion.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a green, so I broadly believe in the science.
When you say you're a green, what do you mean by that?
Well, I believe that climate change is real, and I believe it's caused by human action, and I believe there are things
Some of it, right?
The bulk of it.
The bulk?
Oh, yeah.
The bulk of climate change you think is caused by humans?
Yeah, no, I mean, the science of it was settled in the 1890s. It's not particularly crazy. Different gases have different albedos and absorption rates. Now, to think that we can predict on a local level what that looks like, we don't have the math for that. We don't have the case studies for that. We do have weather data going back 130 years, which shows some pretty clear trends. We've heated up by about 1.1 degrees Celsius over that time frame, but that has different impacts based on where you are. If you're in the upper Midwest, it's extended growing seasons and gotten rid of some frost. So pretty soon we're going to be double cropping. But if you're in a drier climate like, say, Phoenix or Australia, it's led to wildfires and a breakdown of the agricultural system. So climate change is change. It's not a disaster. It depends on where you are.
So why do you think this ideology has been so pervasive, this ideology that it is a disaster, we're all going to die?
Well, now we're getting into cultural debates.
Yes.
So one of the many aspects of modernization is that people become more connected but live in smaller units. Because as you urbanize, you have fewer kids. And that means that people are looking for other ways to belong because the old traditional methods of, family and farm aren't as tight as they used to be. And so this is much more further advanced in places like Japan or Europe than it is in the United States. But it's happening here too. And when you're looking for social opportunities, politics are a way that can reach across the geographic distances, no matter where you happen to be. And you can use social media and tech to communicate with people who have a belief system that you find attractive for whatever reason. And so the same thing that makes the environmental community more potent, if less informed, is exactly the same thing that brought Donald Trump to power. Because you got people who felt like they were on the outside of a society who all of a sudden could link into one another. It's a technology conversation from my point of view.
So Do you drive an electric vehicle, or do
No,
you just
God no.
post
I live at
totally?
7,500 feet in Colorado. That would be suicide.
Why is it bad up there at 7,500 feet?
They don't deal well with inclement weather. They don't
They're
deal
not
well
good
with cold.
right?
Yeah.
They're fun to drive, though. You ever drive
No,
one?
it's like, no, for people who enjoy it for the driving experience, go for it. Just don't pretend that you're being an environmentalist.
What do you think? Have you paid attention to Porsche's, what they're trying to do now with hydrogen? They're trying to build a new type of carbon neutral fuel.
I don't want to condemn any technology that has not been through its development process. But what I have seen from hydrogen at the moment suggests that it is far dirtier than gasoline.
In what way?
You have to get the hydrogen from somewhere. And right now we pluck it from natural gas. So you've got a carbon input there. Then you have to build out a transmission system for it. And the hydrogen molecules are tiny. They're the smallest molecules that we have. And the seals have to be perfect. Otherwise, you're just hemorrhaging the stuff. So you're generating something from fossil fuels, and they're hemorrhaging it all along the way. And I got to say, if they don't do it right, a car accident where hydrogen is involved is really exciting.
Oh, Jesus, you got a Hindenburg type situation.
Yeah. I'm not saying they can't make it work. I'm saying they haven't made
Is
it work.
that what Porsche's using? Do they have some sort of experimental fuel that
It might
they
be a
have
cell.
in production?
I don't know.
But I know that obviously they've created electric vehicles.
It says they call it e-fuel. Act like gasoline.
It could provide gas alternative amid EV push. Porsche said Tuesday that a pilot plant in Chile started production of an alternative fuel as it aims to produce millions of gallons by mid-decade. Officials say e-fuels act like gasoline, allowing vehicle owners a more environmentally friendly way to drive. Porsche officials celebrated the beginning of the e-fuel production with the filling of a Porsche 911 with the first synthetic fuel produced at the site.
I am unfamiliar with the chemistry for this one.
Porsche and several partners have started production of a climate neutral. Do you believe that?
Not really.
E-fuel aimed at replacing gasoline in vehicles with traditional internal combustion engines. The German automaker, owned by Volkswagen, said Tuesday that a pilot plant in Chile started commercial production of the alternative fuel by mid-decade. Porsche is planning on to produce millions of gallons. We already said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some versions of this technology where they're hoping they can get...
Here it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so e-fuels are a type of synthetic methanol produced by a complex process using water, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide. Companies say they enable the nearly CO2 neutral operation of a gas-powered engine. Vehicles would still need to use oil to lubricate the engine. In the pilot phase, Porsche expects to produce around 130,000 liters of e-fuel. Plans are to expand that to almost 55 million liters by mid-decade, around 550 million liters roughly 2 years later. The Chilean plant was initially announced with Porsche in late 2020 when the automaker said it would invest $24 million in the development of the plant. And the e-fuels partners include Chilean operating company Highly Innovative Fuels, Renewable Energies.
Yeah. Let me slap some science on that real quick. The three base materials, water, carbon dioxide, and oxygen, are three of the most stable molecules in the natural world. And so to break them apart with electricity to make something else is a massive power suck. If you're going to do that with a conventional fuel system like we have in pretty much every part of the world, you're talking about a carbon footprint that's at least triple what we do with gasoline right now. The idea would be that if we can do it with green tech, solar in Chile, for example, that maybe we can make that footprint carbon-free, or at least carbon neutral, and then use the electricity to generate this stuff in a relatively green way. That's a lot of solar power. And all of that to get, in their best-case scenario, 550 million gallons. We use almost 10 million barrels of liquid fuels in just the United States every day. So you need to expand that by a factor of a couple hundred.
What about nuclear?
I am broadly pro-nuclear. The problem is time frame. Like if there were no regulations at all, it takes 7 years to build one of those suckers. We don't have that kind of time honestly. And if we start right now, we won't see first output this decade. There are small modular reactors that look really promising. You can basically put them on the back of a semi-flatbed, but they don't exist yet. And once we build one of those, then it's probably a 10-year process to build out the manufacturing supply chain to produce them in volume.
But wouldn't it be wise to start moving in that direction now if you're broadly pro-nuclear?
Mm-hmm. The issue is until we solve the fuel containment issue on the back end once it's spent. So the chemistry of taking a spent nuclear rod and refurbishing it for a new reactor, it's relatively inexpensive. It's relatively easy. But it has a side effect of producing weapons-grade plutonium. So to do this at scale, we have to produce a civilian plutonium weapons civilian weapons quality plutonium disposal and management system. We haven't figured out how to do that.
What do they do with it now?
They don't process it. They just leave it in the spent fuel rods and they put it into a pond until the end of time.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And
no silver bullets.
so is it just that they don't know how to do it, or do they have theories on how to do it?
You have to basically take the rod, you go through a chelating, dissolving chemistry process, and you separate out the various isotopes of uranium from the plutonium. But then what do you do with the plutonium? Because you have now purified it because of this process.
What do? They just put it in a pond.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they don't even separate it.
I was reading about some technology where they think they could take nuclear waste and convert it into batteries.
I have not heard that one.
See if you can find that. There was a process of processing nuclear waste and converting it into a renewable resource.
It's a nice thought.
Great thought.
Yeah.
If the aliens could come down and give us some new tech. But as of what we have right now, you're not aware of anything that could do that.
No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think solar and wind, especially wind, are great in the places where they work.
Here it says radioactive waste can be recycled to create diamond batteries. Scientists involved in an American startup for the development of nano-diamond batteries are trying to turn radioactive waste into batteries. NDB is a perpetual green self-charging battery made from recycled nuclear waste isotope combined with layers of nanodiamonds in a battery cell. Extremely good thermal conductivity of microdiamonds causes heat removal from radioactive isotopes, so the process of generating electricity is fast. NDB generates electricity similar to that obtained from solar panels, but uses radioactive decay energy instead of sunlight. An NDB battery usually consists of three main components: an isotope, a converter, and a storage unit. Due to the decay, isotope radiation is transformed into electrical energy in the converter. The storage unit accumulates energy for future use. We're problem solved, bro.
Yeah, just keep in mind that this is radioactive decay, and that's what turns you into goo. So you're not going to put this in your watch. You're not going to have it in your car. You're going to have it at a fixed, secured location. Now, will that be like a power plant? Maybe. But wow, I hope nothing goes wrong.
So these radioactive diamonds.
It's a diamond layer over the waste, and then the waste is decaying, and then they conduct the heat somehow.
So the decay is inside the diamond as long as the diamond doesn't get broken.
I'm guessing that the diamond is there to absorb things like beta and gamma radiation.
But this, you believe, also very dangerous.
Well, it would require some very serious security issues, but at least from a chemical point of view, it sounds theoretically possible.
The patented NDB universal self-charging battery provides a charge of up to 28,000 years of battery life. Yeah, no more worried about your phones, bro.
The half-life of most of this stuff is in the thousands of years, so yeah, I guess technically that's true.
Nano-diamond batteries will be able to charge devices and machines of any size, from aircrafts and rockets to electric vehicles, hearing aids, smartphones, sensors, and more.
I'm going to go with a hard no on that one.
Really? Why?
Yeah. You're going to put something that is powered by radioactive decay in your ear?
But is this an oversimplification? I mean, if you were really well-versed in this technology, do you think
there's always a chance that if you present me with the facts, I'm going to change my mind, but radioactive decay is not something you fuck with. You're certainly not going to have it on your person.
So you think this is all just pipe dreams?
I think in that interpretation, it's a pipe dream, because you think about what would happen if this is real, and you can get a sizable one of these, like for a car. All it takes is a pickaxe, and all of a sudden somebody has a dirty bomb.
Jesus.
Yeah. Having it in a secured location where it provides energy to a grid? Maybe.
Maybe.
Have a good security system.
Yeah, but you